All right, Chris. So we have a pretty big guest here with us. This is pretty cool. We have Adeel Khan, from Magic School, CEO of Magic School. Let him introduce himself, and we'll take it. We'll go from there.
Adeel, how's it going?
It's going well. Thanks so much for having me today. Like mentioned, my name's Adeel. I'm the founder of Magic School, but I'm also, someone who's spent a lifetime in education. I started my career as a special education teacher. I also taught English and history. I was an assistant principal for many years, and then had an opportunity to found a public high school here in Denver, Colorado, which I did in 2017 as the principal, and then coach principals for a year at the district level,
Cool.
and took some time off, and that was kind of where Magic School got started.
I guess will you tell us so I told Josh like, hey, no magic school bus jokes. But we're kind of wondering if that's okay. And then we were just talking to, and you mentioned that could be a part of your origin story. So would you talk about would you talk about Magic School Bus? Would you talk about your origin story? What tell us about Magic School and its beginnings?
Yeah, so Magic School is something quite I would say a non-traditional story from an ed tech perspective. I didn't know how non-traditional it was until we've kind of gotten larger and grown connections to others in the industry. But Magic School, like I mentioned, started when I was taking some time off after a year of coaching principals. I was on kind of my own personal sabbatical. I traveled a little bit. And then I came back in November of 2022, and that's when ChatGPT came out. And that was kind of the ChatGPT moment in the world when it was dominating the headlines, and it felt very serendipitous that, November is the time when I was a principal or a teacher, I'd be kind of crawling to winter break and doing everything I could to make sure that we were getting our final grades in and wrapping up things as we head into the holidays. But I happen to be someone who was pretty rested off of some travel and could really engage in this new technology and understand what it offered for educators. And genuinely, when I started using it, while the headlines that dominated were around how students were going to use this to cheat and how this was the end of education,
Yeah,
I was just really, really compelled by how much utility there was here for educators, and how I would have used this technology if I was still in the classroom or a principal. So I didn't really quite know what I'd do with that as I was experiencing the tech. But what I started with was going to different schools and districts, starting with my own, the one that I founded, and I showed ChatGPT to teachers, and I said, I want to show you a couple use cases that I think would be really valuable to you. And I want to hear what you think. And I would like kind of run a little mini professional development session where I'd model a couple ways to use it. And always they would end with like teachers with their jaws on the ground, like just this, I
Sure.
can't believe that this exists. This is incredible. It's so useful. So I was really energized, and I really thought that this was going to be a big deal for education. But I would always, at the end of these professional development sessions, uh, end with a challenge. I'd say, here's your homework. Try this in as many circumstances as you could possibly think of in your day-to-day in the classroom, in a school building. And I'm going to come back in a week, and I want to know all the ways that you used it. Uh, and I figured that, folks in the work are going to have way more thoughts on where they might use this than I
sure.
am. 'Cause I'm not working in schools right now. So I came back, and I'd get like, answers would range in these three categories. One, I didn't use it at all. And I'd be like, really? Like you were so excited about it. Like,
We know
wow.
those teachers.
Yeah.
Um, but I was like kind of surprised because, again, they were really excited. And then there was the second group, and they were like, I tried using it, but I kind of had the blank page problem. And like I was prompting it so much to get it to do what I wanted to do, it just wouldn't come out right. And I find one of the promises that I would make to teachers, this is going to save you a lot of time. And they were like, it ended up costing me more time, and I just did it myself.
Sure.
And then there was the third group, and these were kind of the tech teachers in the building. Like it was the smallest
Hmm.
group, two teachers of the many that I trained. Uh, and they were like, oh my God, this has changed my whole life. Like I am completely doing my work differently now. Let me tell you about the ways that I'm doing it. Some things that I would have assumed they'd use it for, and then some things I just completely wouldn't have imagined. Uh, so that kind of was the problem statement for Magic School. It was this idea that there's this generational technology in the world that stands to benefit educators in an incredible way, and only the really, really tech forward teachers are the ones accessing it right now. Um, and just about every teacher in the building could benefit from it if it was made for them and
Hmm.
really, really aligned to the needs that they have in the classroom. So uh, that was kind of the origin of why I decided to make a product. There was a lot of things I thought I might do, like I might go and train schools, like I was training my school on this, right? Like go around the country and do that uh, because of what I'd learned and how excited people were in the training sessions. But the idea to build a product was because I didn't think the existing products were serving the profession that I had worked in for my whole career as well as we could as a product.
So
Um,
hit us with the hot take. Why the name Magic School?
I was thinking about a bunch of names, and I there wasn't like a very clear like the Magic School Bus, but I grew up watching it when I was a teacher, and Miss Frizzle was an important part of all of our lives. But Magic and AI were kind of like intersecting at the time in a lot of different product things. Um, I tried a bunch of them that you might like imagine as like really simple, obvious names, and then
Yeah, I
like
was gonna say, can you give us some little Easter eggs
yeah,
of
yeah,
names you
like
thought of?
there's so the .ai domain names were kind of like just completely already ransacked by the time that I had like started looking for things. So I'm sure there's a lot of those that I probably tried. I'm trying to think of like one that would be really interesting from those early days. But it came to me one night. I was just like Magic School. Like it was like literally all at once, and I just like did the Magic School thing. It wasn't like a Chat GPT generated suggested name. It was like
That's funny.
genuinely came to me. The actual more interesting story probably is we named it Magic School, or I came up with that name. I registered that domain, and and then the next day, maybe the next day or two, one of our early teammates, mind you, who was a volunteer, all of our early teammates were volunteers. We were just as we were launching this product, it was bootstrapped, and I was just draining my bank account to make it happen. Her name is Steffi. She works on our partnerships team now here in the West, but at the time she was leading our marketing, and we kind of immediately afterwards came up with the teachers are magic kind of idea, which
Yeah.
Oh,
is that
yeah.
it will never be, AI will never be the star of the show. Teachers are the magic, and AI can help. But that was something we came up with almost immediately after, and it became kind of our rallying cry. And one of the biggest, I think, boons to our success is like the way that we approach this, people appreciate. They recognize that like we're not a company here to replace the teacher's thinking or their jobs. We're here to assist them, and we recognize how important they are in the learning journey of a child, and we want to work around them and support them rather than technology that promises to automate their brilliance. So, when we had our first booth at ISTE, another I think maybe fun, interesting story. We spent like we'd raised like 25,000 dollars at the time, and we spent our entire fundraise on having a booth at ISTE. If you don't know, booths at ISTE are extremely expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we made that decision last minute. We were just going to like, it's funny to think back. Like, I didn't even really know what ed tech was. Like, mind you, like I was teacher in schools and principal, but I didn't like understand the industry in any sense. I just kind of, uh, I knew products existed. I didn't know what ISTE was, but maybe 2 weeks before ISTE, one of my close friends was like, "Hey, the biggest ed tech conference in the world is happening in 2 weeks, and you're starting this product. You should probably go and like, learn about the industry that you're trying to like be a part of." And
Hmm.
I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I brought Steffi along, and when we got there, we were like sitting at the exhibit hall check-in booth. If you've ever been to like a ISTE, there's like this place where you go and get your badge and stuff like that. And we were like, you know what? Like, man, it feels like we should just try it and see what happens. And uh, so we went and we asked the exhibitor if there's any last minute exhibit hall booths, and they're like, yeah, in like the little startup village, we could get you like a small table, and then like they told us how much it cost, and we're like, that's like all of our money. But I was like, you know what? Like high risk, high reward. Like
Sure.
let's get a booth here. And we were like stuffed in a corner. We used Party City balloons to decorate it last minute. Like we had no branding, nothing. We
I
went to
love it.
Office Depot and did things. But the thing that got people to our booth was the fact that we were wearing these Teachers Are Magic t-shirts. Everybody wanted the t-shirt. So they
Oh,
didn't know
that's
anything
cool.
about our product. They didn't know that we were like, they knew nothing about us, but we would get them to look at it. And I remember we had an engineer there, Steffi, Michael's our engineer, and they could see how teachers were reacting to the demos that I was doing. And I could tell that they were starting to get it. They were like,
Hmm.
oh, this could be world changing. Like the way that people are reacting when we demo the product. They came for the t-shirt and they left and they couldn't talk about anything else other than Magic School.
Yep.
So even though we had probably not a huge presence there, it was for the people who saw us and met us, they loved us, and no regrets. It was a really worthwhile spend of 25K at the time.
So
Yep.
let's talk about the tech stack behind Magic School. You know, because we've already mentioned GPT. You were using that as a resource and training people early on before you came to this entity that is Magic School or found this entity. Um, walk us through kind of under the hood stuff. Are you guys using major LLMs like OpenAI or Anthropic? Is it a mix of all of them? Is it whoever responds better to the query? Because
Yeah.
you know there's got to be latency there somewhere. How does all of that work?
Yeah, so we use currently in the product, we use primarily OpenAI and Anthropic's models. And we use the frontier models from both labs. So the way that we think about this is some combination of what you just described. So we run our queries that power each of the tools and Rena, which is our chatbot on the platform, and we see what performs best against their intended task. And then we also have like a series of evaluations. We have a data science team that runs. Uh, we have an internally built like proprietary evaluations platform. And what this does is it allows us to run the same tool against multiple large language models. And then after that output is generated from each of the large language models that is a combination of the prompt used, the system message that we give to the platform, and our own kind of guardrails. Whatever that comes out, you can think of like the layer being those are the layers before it hits the model, then it hits the model, and then we get an output. Then we have these evaluators at the end of those generations that we evaluate based on different criteria. So I'll give you a couple of the evaluators. You could potentially imagine how these evaluators might be useful for some of our tools. One of which is like a text leveling evaluator that like can recognize whether or not is this written on the appropriate grade level based on what the tool has asked to do. So it'll independently evaluate the output and say, is this appropriate for an eighth grader, a seventh grader, a sixth grader, and give it a score. Um, and whichever kind of scores the highest would be the tool to use if the tool's most important uh, quality would be like the
Hmm.
leveling. The
Yeah.
text level or the academic content comes out at like a grade level that's readable.
How
Then we have,
often how
go
often
ahead.
is that evaluation happening? That's not happening real time, is it? Or do you guys just do organic evaluations every once in a while?
Yeah, so there are two ways. One is we have human in the loop evaluation, and that is like typically the impetus for doing this would be, hey, a new model came out. So
Okay.
to run
Okay.
it back against our evaluators, and like essentially the playing field has changed. Second would be models just change on their own without a new model coming out sometimes. We've learned that along the way. And you saw this probably recently with like the upheaval around GPT-5 coming out. Like, oh, this just doesn't work the same as we like
Yeah.
it to work. But then in addition to when a new model comes out, sometimes like even like an API, we saw this with GPT-4o, is that it just worked a little bit differently like a month later without necessarily having any change to the model,
Hmm.
right? And sometimes the labs will update the models and they'll tell the developers, hey, we made some quick updates to this to make X happen, but it wouldn't be like a model change.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, so that happens. So we also run automated testing. So on a periodic basis, there's an automated version of that runs that will give us a report to let us know if there are any like major changes in the way that the tools are responding with the models that we're already using. But then there's the human in the loop. that we'll run when there's a new model out, or we have a new evaluator that we want to use for whatever reason. So another evaluator is like safety. Like, how does it respond when a student, might ask for something that could be dangerous? Like, how to make, uh, you know, something harmful,
Right. Right.
how to buy a gun or something like that, right? Like, how does the tool respond? And based on, for our student platform, that's particularly important.
Hmm.
And then second would be another one we've been focused on recently is like a bias mitigation evaluator. So which models show the most bias and which don't. One thing to note that's exciting is we're going to start open sourcing all of that information.
Huh.
So we're gonna probably write up a blog post the next month or so to share with you
Cool.
like what are the strengths of different models, what are the potential concerns of different models, um, and the short version of it is that some of these models are not safe for kids. Like I
Good
mean, that might be
answer.
the most, they might be the most obvious statement, but like some of these
Yes.
models without any, so mind you, like almost every one of the models with the appropriate kind of like system prompting and like the things that we do to make sure that they like end up giving you like a really safe response for kids, they make them okay. We can adjust just about any model to make it work appropriately for the students in question. But just
Hmm.
the blanket, like, hey, I'm just gonna like allow unbridled use of
Right.
like ChatGPT or a Gemini for students. That's probably not the right way to go right now. Like that.
Yeah.
That's just based on our testing, very clear to us.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like one thing to know is that there are some very progressive on the progressive end of school districts just saying, you know what, we're just going to allow kids to use these, and I think that would be a mistake.
Yeah. That's not me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is a great,
yeah,
great segue. Josh Uber care. I care about what I'm about to say, but Josh Uber cares about student data, teacher data, FERPA, COPA, all the privacy things. Can you touch on Magic School's stance on those things and what you do? I always do this visual thing of I'm trying to protect my kids. I'm trying to hold on to them. Can you talk through the Magic School stance on that stuff?
yeah. I mean, we are from the ground up built for security, safety for Pacopa obviously is a platform that generates most of its revenue from selling directly to school and district CIOs and leaders. These are the folks who are the gatekeepers, right? You just made that motion with your hands of like,
Hmm.
protecting your school and district. So if we don't have really buttoned up policies and don't have incredible practices at our company that protect data, then there's no chance that we're going to be viable or generate revenue in business. The good news is we also, I think one of the things that we bucked the trend on a little bit as a company is, I'd say one advantage of being someone who's like from schools and not from technology, not that there's not a lot of great people who are from technology building in the tech space, is that like this stuff is pretty intuitive to me. Like
Hmm.
you're really transparent. We of course from the ground up is like I want we're not we will build with integrity. Those are our values. That's what schools and districts like desire and need, and that's the way I led when I was a principal. And I would tell every parent like our policies around behavior and discipline, and they wouldn't have to question those things. So like, why wouldn't we just open source all of our policies so people don't have to play guessing games around this stuff? And I would say, what we get often from CIOs that we talk with is like, this is the best organized documentation I've ever seen. It is super clear and thoughtful. I can find the answers I need in the documentation. And then, of course, we have a large team that is dedicated to answering the questions that
Hmm.
might be very specific to your school or district around privacy, down to the real nitty gritty. So, now that we have a team that does that and we have partnerships across all 50 states, uh, I probably can't speak to every single bit of for every one of them, but the policies are open source. They're online, magicschool.ai/privacy. You can see every single way that we protect privacy. Um, and we've also been independently rated as the top for privacy by Common Sense Media recently for their Common Sense Privacy Initiative. So we take a lot of pride in this and
Yeah.
always aim when we got like a 93%, which is the highest rating they've given, and like we're like we need to get to a 97%. We've already like looked at it and been like, oh, they missed some things. We can get this even higher. So
Cool.
we have a team that's really, really committed to that and dedicated resource to make sure that's the case. One other thing, name here without being too self-promoting is that like this is actually one of the big differentiators between Magic School and others is like we have one audience, right? It's like schools and districts. All we think about when we build our product is how we're
Right.
building for them and in service of them. So obviously we get all of this like push and questions and a critical eye on all these things from schools and districts, and that pushes us to be better. We accept that feedback. We update. We up for and our as we fight Googles and Microsofts and all these different things, like the reason you pick us is because you know that we're building for you. You know that we're going to respond to your needs. We're going to make this as safe as possible for schools. And, we're not to be held to the same standard as like, or, the fundamental fact of the matter for Google and Microsoft is like they're accountable to their shareholders and $1 trillion plus market cap, right?
Right.
We are accountable to schools and districts, and you guys are the only way that we grow. So we
Yep.
have to build it. We have an economic incentive to build it, and we also have a mission orientation that means that we're going to be focused just on you all.
So, try and kind of wrap up here in a few minutes, but give us a quick hit of what schools can expect in the next 6 months or so from Magic School. What kind of enhancements?
Tell us about the future.
Yeah, or what are blow our minds here at Adeel.
So some of the things that you're going to see in the near term are really, really dialed in school and district controls. So you're going to be able to uh, site by site manage customized tools in the platform. We just launched today, actually, collections in the platform where you can make your own custom sets of tools, share those custom sets of tools with other teachers. So we're kind of digging deep into this idea that what if sometimes we'll hear from districts, we kind of want to build something ourselves, right? And like we've heard the AI is like, people are vibe coding and maybe we can do this. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be pretty hard to do that from like a safety perspective, but I
Right.
get why you're saying that. You have all of your individualized needs. You have a very specific curriculum that you're building with, all of those different things that you want to make this feel like it was our in-house AI system. So you're going to see a lot of features in the near term that make this feel like yours. Like you can really, really hide and create new tools and kind of make it your own AI platform, even to the level of which we're talking about like letting branding be updated. So instead of
Hmm.
saying school in the top left, can it just say your school district logo? Um, and can you like just fully make it a tool set for you to create your own AI platform? Obviously, using the tools that we have built that are really intentional, but just adding a lot of customizations to it, whether that being informed by curriculum, whether that being able to be connected to a Google Drive that like updates regularly. Uh, Without giving away too much, like expect that it should work into your ecosystem
Mhm.
in a really powerful way. Now the mind blowers, like what are we really building? Like that's like the crazy, exciting dream for the future. We have a bunch of really cool stuff coming. And we're having like a very special kind of like update in the next like month or two. That's going to be you've probably seen us teasing like our AI operating system for schools. Uh, you should know that what we're building right now we think is awesome. And like I've said this
He's
to our
not going to
team.
tell us, Josh. I feel
Yeah,
like
Yeah.
this is
I
unbelievable. He's
promise
skirting around it.
I'll give you a little bit more of it.
What's it
What
rhyme with?
but one thing I will say is that I've told this to our team, who works with, we have a customer experience team that works with, hundreds of districts all around the country. And I believe this year, the most important new feature that Magic School will launch is not a feature at all. It is the application of this technology in really intentional ways in schools and districts. So if you can make a really, one example I use is we already have this in the platform, the ability to customize the tool, and then if you're an enterprise partner, you can launch that tool to your school and district. You can say, hey, here's a customized tool that the school and district um, all has access to. When that is really intentional, we see massive impact and usage around the tools that the district customized. I'll give you one example. School and we had a school in Texas or a district in Texas launch a teacher coaching tool that was aligned to their framework for teacher coaching.
Hmm.
That's now the top used tool in their district, and it is only for instructional coaches,
Hmm.
which is like mind blowing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like you would have never categorized Magic School into like a teacher coaching tool, but because this tool is aligned to their framework of the way they give next steps to their teachers after observation of the classroom, and it makes it so that when they can like talk to the chatbot and give an observation of the classroom, and then I can give them an aligned next step from like their corpus of instructional best practices. It ends up being this massively useful tool that took Magic School from like an educator tool to a administrative tool. And obviously, there's leadership in that district that said, "Hey, we're going to get all of our instructional coaches together, and we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to give them this tool to show them that, hey, you can really scale this across the entire district." But that's what I mean by the most interesting applications are probably going to be the best new feature because anyone can have a tool, but if a tool is not used with intention,
Yeah.
then all these like kind of bells and whistles and fun, funky things are only they're marginal at best, right?
Right. Right.
So when you think about like a shiny new feature on a platform, it's like, yeah, that's great, but like I want depth of usage rather than just like one new feature that only 10 teachers in my district will use because they're really, really advanced AI users. So don't get me wrong, we want the bells and whistles and the fun, funky new features too, like for that end of the barbell that's like really progressive and using this a lot. But when you talk about impact at scale, it's about taking the existing tools and really pointing them at like the big problems that you're trying to solve as a district, like
Yeah.
teacher coaching and improving teacher practice.
And making it approachable. Like that's, and I think that's where Magic School was born, was taking these very robust tools and making them super, super approachable. And I think you guys have succeeded with that. So it'll be interesting in the next 6 months if we're going to see even more enhancements to that approach.
Yeah.
That should pay off well for Magic School. Chris,
Yeah.
any closing questions or thoughts?
Josh and I on the podcast have been talking about our schools have AI committees spun up. Uh, we have started the school year with particular things uh, opened up for our faculty and staff. We're still in that, if it's different tiers, right? We're in that beginning where it's still off for students, but it's going to be opened up. And I think a lot of schools, in particular this year, we've talked about. I think a lot of schools are going to start progressing towards, okay, yes, we want teachers to use this, yeah, and yes, we're going to give. These are our supported AI systems now. Uh, there's still a lot of hesitancy when you see the post on like our K12 Tech Pro about it's bad for kids.
Yeah.
What quick things would you say to uh, tech departments that are listening about how should we approach opening things up, or what reasons should we, be advocating for this to be opened up for teachers, for students? Because I do think this next year is probably going to be we're going to start seeing that more and more.
Yeah, I'm actually, I wrote an op-ed on this that'll come out pretty soon. So I'll give you a couple of like the high level points on like why I think it's pretty important that we start using this for schools and districts. When I was a teacher, I led an after school session at my school around the dangers of social media usage. And that wasn't because I was like a technology dude. It was because kids were getting bullied in my middle school. And like we felt like we needed to address this with families and we couldn't control it. And we needed
Hmm.
families' partnership and making sure that the technology was used responsibly. I called it Parent Academy. I invited families in. I said, hey, here's all the tools that your kids are probably using. You're going to have to make some judgments on whether or not they should use these. That was 10 years ago, 10 or 12 years ago. And we're just now recognizing that like social media has been a net negative for kids.
Right.
We
Right.
probably should have been doing that across the country. And we're starting to ban cell phones, all those different things. So I think we can learn from that time and not wait 12 years, 10
Yep.
years to start realizing these things. And there are a couple of principles that from then that I think still apply today. If you just ban this stuff outright, then usage goes underground.
Right.
Um, Educators and parents will lose visibility and the chance to like teach judgment to kids. Like we have to teach them how to use these technologies appropriately in school if there's a chance that they're going to use them responsibly and well. If you allow it without guidance, then like shortcuts will win. kids will use it to just write their essays. That novelty and just like getting something done quickly is appealing for a child and for an adult sometimes too. So I think that, but when you teach students like why or why not, you'll hear them have these really incredible articulate responses about how they're not going to use AI because they understand why they're not going to. They'll say things like, and I've heard this from students myself, they'll say things like, I don't want to offload all my thinking. My brain's in like developmental, most important developmental phase. So like my teacher uses it for me in school to get me writing feedback after I've written the essay. But I don't want to use it to have it write my essay because like I know that I'm gonna have to test anyways. I'm gonna have to be able to write on my own, and
Hmm.
I want to be able to maximize this opportunity to grow and learn. I kid you not, a student told me that, a 10th grade
Wow.
student.
Wow.
And the only thing that you can get from that conversation, my big takeaway is when I left, obviously the child is brilliant and thoughtful, but my second thought was they must have an incredible teacher who taught them all of those things about why and why not to use it. And shouldn't
Yep.
every child have a teacher
Yep.
like that
Yep.
describing not to use it?
Which that's an interesting take. A very deliberate thought process by that student, clearly. We're right at 30 minutes,
Yeah.
Adeel. We really appreciate your time. Not every founder of a major company that, everybody's heard of. If you're in school, if you're in K12, you've heard of Magic School. I can't say that every founder of every company like this would be
Hang
willing to
out with us.
come on and chat with us two yahoos. So we really do appreciate your time, and we hope this relationship we can keep going with this relationship, and we'll look for some really really cool things from Magic
That you
School here.
didn't tell us about.
Yeah, that you still didn't answer. But yeah, we'll
Yeah,
be
once you
looking.
get out of here, we're gonna badmouth on that question, but just kidding, kind
Yeah,
of.
but pleasure's all mine, guys. Announcements very soon. And obviously, like, you guys are doing the
A
hard
deal. It's
work.
okay. It's okay.
Uh, um, no, but you guys are doing the hard work. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day, and look forward to reconnecting in the future.
All right,
Awesome.
we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course.